Welcome. In this recording, we are talking all about weekly reviews. Now, the outcome vision for a weekly review is to feel so relaxed and excited about your upcoming week that there is zero stress. Over the past 10 plus years, I've had more than 500 weekly reviews. I have missed a few weeks when life got a little crazy. And while I could give you a super long checklist to follow each week, I'm pretty sure that would stress you out, and that's not how I do my weekly reviews. I don't have a big, long checklist that overwhelms me. I really make it work with my life. So the goal of this recording is to help you to see that a weekly review doesn't have a whole lot of rules and it doesn't need to put too much structure into your life. It can provide just enough structure and enough flexibility that you'll feel really great about your life and what's on your plate and how to move forward really well using your Command Central. I'm going to share a few guiding principles about weekly reviews, and then I'm going to outline two different types. First, I'll share what a totally thorough weekly review would look like, and then I'll share the Bare Essentials weekly review. Then you can move forward as desired. All right, let's talk about the principles behind creating an awesome weekly review. First, you want to make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks. Second, you want to be clear on your focus for the week, right? We don't want to be running around in circles, wasting time. Third, you want to process and organize what needs to be done, but the weekly review is not when you do everything. It's the processing, it's organizing, it's preparing. And fourth, you want to make decisions during this time. Nothing should be left in limbo because you're going to get in the habit of continually processing anything that would typically have sat in a pile, okay? And you'll know that your weekly review has gone well when you are breathing and when you're thinking, I've got this, okay? And that's going to become your new norm. So excited for you. Let's go ahead and walk through the framework for a totally thorough weekly review. Now, I create a little checklist of what I want to organize each week. It's not a big, long list that I feel like I have to plow through. It's just kind of a list of different areas that I want to organize, either in my mind or on my computer or my desk. And so accompanying this audio, you're going to see that little checklist and some images showing you how I organize my weekly review. Now, you can, of course, adapt this to meet your needs, but I want to give you a really solid starting point. The things that you're going to be doing during your weekly review don't all have to be done at the exact same time. So if you don't want to sit down for an hour or an hour and a half, that's fine. You could do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. It's just fine. But typically you do want to get all of them done within the week, and you want to know when you're going to be doing them so that, again, nothing will slip through the cracks. It's really easy to split it up, and sometimes when I sit down, I even rewrite my list and check it off. So I have a really simple checklist of the areas that I'm going to organize. The idea is it'll just become a habit. It's really simple, and you're going to be able to get this thorough weekly review done more often than not. Okay, so let's walk through what a thorough weekly review looks like now. Usually I spend about 15 minutes doing a planner cleanup. This is where my task lists from the past week are reviewed to make sure that nothing got missed, because ideally I would update it every single day, but sometimes it gets a little crazy. No problem. Just go back and look, just check, make sure. Notes on my daily pages in my Franklin planner. I photograph the important ones. I'll put those into Evernote. I have a little binder where I store extra pages. I'll add in new pages. I usually keep about a month's worth of pages in there at a time. And if there's any loose papers like receipts or things like that, I go ahead and put those into my inbox, which I'll process a little bit later into the review. I also create a new next actions list inside of my planner. Now, if you don't use a paper planner, then most of this would be digital. So you might be extracting tasks from notes that you've taken in Evernote or OneNote, or you might look through the notes that you've put together and file them in the appropriate folders. Or if you're using an app like Cozy or OmniFocus or Calendars 5 or something like that, there's all kinds of different apps out there. You might be reviewing your context-based next actions list, taking out tasks that need to go next in line, later on. You might want to put things into projects. So you'll just want to do some cleanup digitally if you're not using a planner. Now, as I'm doing this processing, I am not getting lost in my planner notes. If I come across, let's say I have some notes for a big project that I haven't started yet and I feel a little stressed about it, I just add a little calendar trigger to think about it on a future day when I know I'll have a chunk of open time. And I can reference those notes that may be in Evernote now, or I might keep a few things in my planner if they're parts of a bigger project I'm working on. Okay, so after I've spent about 15 minutes cleaning up my planner, and you'll either be doing that with a paper planner or with digital apps or resources, then I usually just spend about 2 minutes reviewing the calendar for the week. Now, Eric and I do a more thorough calendaring session together as a couple, but I just spend a couple minutes looking at mine. It's a quick glance, but I do think carefully through what's coming, and I make sure that nothing got left off. For example, let's say I have a meeting on Wednesday and I need to send a conference call link. I'll add that to my task list for Tuesday, or if I can delegate that to someone, I'll go ahead and do a quick delegation email or text. Or if my daughter, let's say, needs to bring a snack for the basketball team, and I want to remember to buy those items the day before while I've already planned to go grocery shopping, I just quickly add that to the little running shopping list that I keep in my planner for the day that I'm going to be getting my groceries. But here's the thing. If I remember something like, oh yeah, I was supposed to ask Eric about blank, I don't go ask him right that minute typically, and I don't start a text or start a phone call, because leaving my desk or involving another person would stop the flow. If it's just a quick one-directional text or email, that's fine. But if it's going to be a conversation, totally stopping the flow, we don't want to do that. So instead, I would create a calendar trigger or a task on a specific day, or I might add that to my discuss list, depending on the time sensitivity of the task. All right, moving on. I usually spend about 10 minutes cleaning up Asana. That's where I'm renegotiating tasks. Let's say there are a few things that I thought I would have had time to do, but I didn't. And now there's a little red deadline missed symbol that I would go ahead and I'd change that deadline to a time in the future. I try to do that very rarely because you don't want to be changing dates all the time and always feeling behind, but occasionally I do. I'll also look at my projects and maybe move things from my current projects list to in progress or waiting if someone else is working on it, or the next in line section or something like that. But we want to make sure that we're not feeling overwhelmed by all the stuff that we have on our list. And a lot of times my current projects list will get a little bit full. So if that's the case, then we want to make sure that we're cleaning that up. Clean, simple. That's how we want everything to feel. Next, I just spent a couple of minutes looking at my routines list, and I note any that need a little reminder attached, a little calendar trigger, and I essentially just give it a quick look to make sure that my routines are moving along. Next, I spend about 5 minutes cleaning up my desk. Sometimes this is less, but occasionally we'll have my kids who come and work at my desk, or people will put things on my desk, or I'll have, some books or some other things that were out from a project that need to go back into my cubbies. So I just take a little bit of time to clean that up and make sure that my desk looks good and that things that need to be processed are in the inbox. Then I process the inbox, which is typically about 15 minutes. I go through the questions, go through the basic flow to make sure that everything in the inbox ends up somewhere in the command central, which can include the recycle bin or the trash. But that inbox, it's really important for me at least once a week to get that all the way down to 0. And then I usually spend about 20 minutes working on my emails, getting those to 0. Now, the goal for me is to have not only my inbox at 0, but also my immediate action section at 0, meaning things have been completed or I've extracted the tasks from that section of my email. If I have some extra time during this weekly review, I will respond to the immediate action emails and maybe put a little bit more time into email, but I found it so easy to get lost in the email inbox. So the goal is to spend an appropriate amount of time in the email inbox, but get everything to 0 by taking the tasks and putting those into, Asana, your calendar, your planner, something like that. Then I file the related emails in my @Tickler folder of my email. And I put a little note with the task, wherever I've written it, to check my Tickler folder to find the appropriate email. Or if the information can just be copied and pasted and put with a task, great. But it feels really good to look at an email and say, okay, what actually needs to be done on this? When am I going to do that? Is this a project? Is this a task? Is this something I need to talk about at a future meeting? Is this something I need to talk with one of my children about? Something like that. And then getting those emails handled, it just looks visually very beautiful and clear when you don't have all that stuff. And then I spend about 10 minutes cleaning my computer desktop. Most items can either go in the computer trash or into Evernote, or I do keep one folder on my desktop called for external hard drive. And then about once a month, I put those things onto my external hard drive in the appropriate places. If you have a lot of files landing in your downloads folder, then you might clear that space as well, or instead, just depending on how your folders are set up. But clearing the digital clutter regularly has been huge. And then I'll just check any other parts of the Command Central if I have a little extra time. So I'll look at my goals, which hopefully you have those posted somewhere, really easily accessible. I review those all the time, but I'll look at my goals. I'll maybe look through my cubbies, my someday incubation, waiting, just kind of looking through it. But the nice thing is, if anything needs your attention, really, calendar triggers are going to take care of that for you. So you shouldn't need to spend a lot of time looking through the other parts of your Command Central. Keeping it tidy, I think, always feels good. So if you have some time, that's great. But the beauty is that in your Command Central, everything is waiting patiently for you. So there's no stress or worry. One other note is as you're completing 2-minute tasks, particularly with email, you want to be really careful not to get sidetracked, because sometimes a 2-minute task can balloon into 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes. So be really, really careful. If you find yourself saying, oh, this is a bigger thing than I thought, go ahead and create a calendar trigger or schedule time to catch up on that in the future. So that's a thorough weekly review for me. Let's go ahead into the Bare Essentials weekly review. I had a concussion a couple of years ago where I honestly could not use my brain, but there were still a lot of things that were coming at me. And my family could help with most of it, but I still needed to think and process just a little bit to make sure that nothing totally blew up while I was recovering. If you have a time like that, whether it's an illness or it's a big trip that you're going on or a big project you're working on, and you're like, I just can't do a full weekly review right now, that's okay. We're just going to walk through how you can do something really, really quickly, like 15 minutes or less, and you can cover the basics. So 3 minutes, quickly, I'll just glance through my planner, make sure tomorrow's task list is up to date and that the past tasks are completed or renegotiated. This is a priority to me because my planner typically has the things that I absolutely don't want to forget. I may just glance at my next actions list, but I'm not going to worry about anything that's flexible. Like if there's an oil change, oh, it's fine. I'll worry about that next week. Then just 1 minute, do a quick calendar check for the next few days. Make sure you're not going to miss anything, forget about something. Then a 2-minute current projects check-in. I go look at my whiteboard. I might just open Asana, look at that, simplify as much as possible, because if you're in just a putting out fire mode or a survival mode, you don't want to be thinking about tons of projects. You just want to feel like, okay, everything's fine. I can work on that next week, or I can even put it forward for the next month if I need to, if some of those are flexible. Then just 1 minute quick routines list check. Just scan it. Make sure you either got the important ones on autopilot or that you're okay not doing most of them until you're to a point where you have a little bit more time. Then I just do a quick 1 minute desk clean. Typically, I'll put things in my inbox or I'll even create a little stack of things to organize later. Sometimes I have a stack of things that need to go into Evernote. I'll put those in one of my cubbies and I'll create a little calendar trigger. Hey, these things need to go into Evernote. That can be helpful for you as well. And then I'll take 1 minute just to look through my inbox and make sure nothing in it has a deadline. Sometimes I don't process my inbox during a really busy week. And that's okay as long as there isn't something like, oh, a bill that has to be paid by this date or you're going to lose your insurance or something like that. So at least if you look through it and you know, okay, all of this can wait until, next Tuesday or next Wednesday or whenever it is that you've scheduled to do it. And then I'll do a little 5-minute email review. I will always process and empty my inbox, but I'll leave things in my immediate action folder as long as there's nothing that has a really urgent deadline. But that's about it. Then I typically don't worry about any of the other parts of the Command Central. You might just want to pause for a second and think, okay, is there anything else I'm missing? Anything else that would have slipped in? And I don't want to forget anything, because you're going to feel a lot more peaceful when your brain knows that all is well. Okay, so that's your Bare Essentials weekly review. Okay, just a few more notes on weekly reviews. Sometimes on my April day, which I do an April day once a week, and that's typically when I do my weekly review. But sometimes once a month on my April day, I do critical thinking work for about 2 to 3 hours. That's a very, very thorough weekly review. That's where I'm going through my planner, Asana, my computer, my emails, and I'm really thinking carefully about my goals and my plans, my routines, how things are moving. This is an investment and a catch-up day. It doesn't happen all the time, again, about once a month, but it feels so good. And it's during that time each month that I feel like I'm really taking my life to the next level. Also, having a date and time for your weekly review is ideal. And if you ever need to skip it and do a Bare Essentials one, make sure you then calendar a reminder to check in. For example, if I know, okay, I'm good through the weekend, then I create a calendar trigger Monday morning to plan out my week and at least do another Bare Essentials review. You just want your brain to feel calm and say, okay, everything's fine, all is well. So as we close, I just encourage you to set a weekly review as a routine and then either keep our list handy for what to cover during your weekly review or create your own that's tailored more to your needs. But this is going to become an incredible habit that will help you maintain order through your entire life. Okay, enjoy.